so long it's like alchemy.
Warriors back home taking on the new-look Raptors. More foreigns than a Mayweather garage in Toronto, and it was Klay early and often. Now, every point that he scored was donated to the fire relief in Northern California, so they found him early and often, and he was finding the bottom of the net. You know, Klay, I like to call him iClay. Why? He's optimized for efficiency, never mind the hardware. And I like this new look Toronto team. Now, mind you, no Valanciunas, so they went small and athletic. And then this is just simple math. 3 is more than 2. He was 4 of 6 from downtown, 22 points, most of them coming in the first half. But turnovers and a lack of defensive rebounding kept Toronto in this game. KD toe tap. KD just doesn't box out. It's just plain and simple. He's so long and athletic. He never learned to box out. And Kyle Lowry is just like Chris Paul, except double the girth and half the talent. No, I kid. I like Lowry, man. He looks slimmed down. And there's Siakam, the 27th pick out of New Mexico State by way of Cameroon. The 3-and-D versatile forward had himself a career night at Oracle Arena. Steph, 30 points on the night. He chose to pick his spots, and the new strength Steph Curry is showing is getting to the rim. But Pirtle, the big rookie, 9th pick last year, remember, killed Golden State on the offensive glass in the second half. And then it's the Compton avatar, DeMar DeRozan, 24 points and 6 steals. Golden State down late, and then look at Steph. He seeks out contact now. This time, flip over the head, extreme difficulty. It's still only worth 2 points. And then KD, you don't stand a chance when he pulls up like the Pampa brand. I'm calling it now. The most devastating move in the NBA is KD in transition pull-up. Here we go. Tie game. They get the 7-footer switch. You double team. You pick your poison. You leave the splash god wide open to finish the game. Golden State narrowly escapes against this young new-look Toronto Raptors team and what was an exciting game at Oracle Arena. Wow, man. So, watching this game, it got me to thinking, are the Warriors not as good? We've heard the championship hangover, the lack of focus, chemistry, conditioning. There's all these elements that you could throw at why the Warriors do not look as dominant as they have in the past. But I think something that's being overlooked is the adjustment the rest of the league has made. Toronto's a perfect example. What did they do? They went out and got a bunch of versatile young forwards. And you get CJ Miles, a three-point expert, guys that can play the 3-4, the 4-5, and that can, most importantly, move their feet defensively so they can switch. And so, yes, the Warriors have a hangover, it's clear. But there's also an element of the league adjusting, and the gap is closing. Don't get me wrong. The Warriors still have the most talent in the league. But teams are now modeling after us. Therefore, styles make fights, and it's going to be a little more difficult moving forward. But hey, that's the way things are. You revolutionize and then you adapt, right? You can't just stay stagnant. So it'll be interesting to see how the Warriors counter that. Moving forward, Washington on Friday night, I think it's interesting that they play Gortat so much, right? That's he's a legit 7-footer, but he moves his feet well and is able to stay in the games most of the time against small ball lineups. KD, I mentioned in this game, there's a disturbing trend. If I were to have a knock on Kevin Durant, it would be his defensive rebounding. And then he gets caught in no man's land watching defensively. And it's very easy to explain his lack of being able to box out. He's been the tallest kid on the court and the most athletic kid on the court his whole life. He never had to box out, right? He would just elevate and snatch the ball over kids. He never had to find a body. And that really showed. There was a couple times where he completely blew a box out. Kerr would call a timeout, and Kerr was letting him know about it. He kind of stormed by Kerr. So I'm curious to watch their dynamic. There seems to be somewhat of some frustration building between the two. Steph, I have a theory with his fouls, okay? It's clearly he's stronger. You can see it in his upper body, and he's seeking contact going out to the rim. But I also believe it's leading him to be a little more physical defensively, kind of like showing off his strength. But he reeled it in and didn't get in foul trouble in this game, narrowly escaping in Toronto. JaVale McGee was inactive. Now, the logical explanation is no Valanciunas. They knew Toronto was going to go small, which they did. Now, with Toronto, I really like Jakob Poeltl. Never even heard of him. I guess he went to Utah, and he was the 9th pick last year. I don't know, was he hurt? Maybe y'all could fill me in on that. But I like him more than Valanciunas for Toronto moving forward because he's more mobile. He's still a big in the sense of he protects the rim and he finishes around the basket, but he's much more mobile, getting back and up and down the court in transition. And then if he gets switched out, you saw him on KD in the last play. Toronto is impressive. And if you're a Raptors fan, I think you've got to be optimistic, because the last few years you would look at your roster and say, well, we're not going anywhere. We're right in that gray area of we're not great, but we're better than good. And now you've got some youth and some dynamic elements to the team. So we got Wiz Friday. I'm going to hit y'all with a Lakers-Washington overtime game later this afternoon. Be sure to check that out. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.